Greetings, Southwest Pulsars. This is kind of nuts, but at the end of our last meeting, we had some great ideas, and Keith thought it was a great idea for someone to sort of summarize a lot of what we had talked about. And I looked over the notes and thought about it, and I made some diagrams, sketched out some stuff based on everybody's comments. And I was having a difficult time figuring out how to share it. And I remembered we have this new system at Trinity, and so I'm going to use it to share. So what I did is I took our comments that we all made at our last meeting, I plugged them into a Wordle to see what were the big words that were coming up. Well, I think you'll be interested to know that one of the biggest words that came up was change. All right, so we're all motivated for change, as Pulse calls us to do that. What was interesting then is the frequency of the other words that came up. And the three biggest words then after change were people, community, or communities, and institutions. Okay? And so then I went back and I looked through our notes. And it seemed to me that we could think about these three broad areas in two ways, all right? And I think everybody's talking about how you influence change in these different kind of groups. And so for people, these people obviously include individual faculty, okay? Something that came up at our meeting the other night, or last night, in fact, was adjuncts. Okay, there's an audience there that we should be thinking about. But then I would also let's, for the time being, let's put departments in this category of people. All right. So let's maybe think about it that way. Now for communities, it's I think a little bit different. For example, we could think of communities of chairs. All right, and this came up. Do we have chairs that get together? Etc. I would also include deans, and I'm going to sort of intentionally slide deans over to institutions, all right? But also under communities, we have societies, all right? Several different societies came up. But then we also talked about geographic communities, all right? And in the case of geographic communities, there are some obvious communities, also SoCal, Northern Cal, Four Corners, I'll say South Central Texas. And these are all communities based on geography that we could reach out to. So I'm going to circle all these. So the question then is how do we reach out to these people? And it seemed like our discussion was focused on two things. It included both reaching out to individuals, but we also talked about communities. And essentially what most people were talking about was intensive networking, all right? And part of that networking, I'm also, based on the notes, gonna call this catalyzing, all right? But I think the interesting thing, if you look at our discussions, there were two ends of the spectrum, okay? There were personal meetings, okay, where we actually are giving seminars, we're getting people together in regional networks, we're making face-to-face contact with these. And then there's the bigger issue of the social media. So I'm gonna say personal to social media, because I think some people made a really interesting point that it's oftentimes the personal touch that will get people to tie into the social media. Okay, we can't just expect people to come there through the social media. And that one of the things we're trying to develop then are potential learning communities, all right? And these learning communities could be either socially, okay, through some sort of social media, or they could also be geographically based, where people are getting together and actually sitting across from each other. So these are my thoughts, and I am going to to stop there. I hope this helps guide our discussion on Monday. All right, see you then.